I don't know what number this is. 12?
I think this is 12.
Wow. Welcome back to Plot to Go, episode number 12. I'm Jack.
I'm Owen.
And this week we are talking about Opus and Black Bag, two new releases in the UK, I think everywhere as well.
Sure.
Let's
say it with confidence.
Yes. One of them headed by Miss Ayo Edibiri and the other by Kate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. How fun. We're in March, everybody, so it feels like a dead month comparatively.
Compared to what we've been through.
I think because we get January and February being like such, Oscar contenders, like the stuff that's actually released in the States. Mm-hmm. This month just feels like, indies, which I like. I think that's cool that they end up being in cinemas. Mm. But like if you look at big movies, Snow White.
God, I love Snow White.
Oh yes, so excited for that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, let me do my review on Snow White right now.
Before we've seen it. Yeah. Whoa! Best movie I've ever seen. Disney back on top.
Who cares? I do.
Ooh, Snow White's #1 defender over here. Did you hear about the whole news about that recently?
No.
They cancelled the UK premiere to avoid to avoid controversy. So I think it was supposed to happen like this week coming. So if you're listening to this when it drops, around today, like Wednesday, there was supposed to be a UK premiere, but they scrapped their entire plans for it to avoid any sort of controversy surrounding the movie. And then the American premiere, they are not doing a red carpet where they would normally have a press line. Mm. Do you know, like actors get just questioned, whatever. They're completely mitigating that, and it's just going to be like a red carpet photo op, and then into the movie. They're not letting them answer questions.
So they're essentially putting the movie out. Yeah. And then all of the glamour around it, they're kind of smooshing it.
I mean,
because giving a chance people to talk about it.
Yeah,
people are going to ask.
Can happen.
People are going to ask questions, and the cast are going to have to like try and deflect stuff.
Yeah. And that didn't go well in previous times, so they're like, let's just avoid it altogether. Mm. They have done some stuff, like Rachel Zegler was at some Disneyland, like one of them.
Some Disneyland.
I don't know.
like a random one. They were like, which is the worst one we can send her to? Like, it has the least amount of people.
The least amount of people, yeah.
Disneyland Slough.
God. Disneyland Slough, yeah. I want to see what that is.
Well, they were going to build a Disneyland, I think, or maybe in a Universal Park in the UK.
Uh-huh.
And it was like one of those kind of areas, I think.
Slough.
Because I think Slough is one of those areas just outside of London. It's the place in The Office.
Okay, yeah. But so they would call it Disneyland London, but it's
not
it would be
London.
Like Slough. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, can't wait for Rachel Zegler to make her appearance there next time. Yeah. So just crazy stuff about that movie. It's actually really fascinating to read, if I'm not being honest, as like a piece of history.
I think I want to read anything about Snow White.
You just want to go in blind, watch the movie.
I want to go in. I'd just rather just like
you don't
have the animated cartoon.
Yeah,
it works. You know,
yeah,
it's a classic.
Nearly a century old.
That's crazy.
Wild, yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about that silly old movie today. Do you want to dive right into our first film?
No.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Credits roll. Our first film is Opus. The little byline on Letterboxd is a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
That's generic.
I know.
Huh.
It doesn't really say anything.
No. Kind of like the movie. Spoilers.
A young writer is invited to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by the star's cult of sycophants and intoxicated journalists, she finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. This twisted plan.
From the twisted mind.
Yeah, so, it's funny that they say mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. I don't think he mysteriously disappeared.
No.
He did, the pop star who's played by John Malkovich just did the thing that often pop stars do, which is they just, like, a lot of the times do just, like, go away.
Retire.
Not even that, like will have either become irrelevant, because I think that happened with a lot of, like, top of the pops, UK pop stars, or, like, was really successful, and then it was just like, oh, I've been successful, I'll just go away and do my own thing, which is kind of what his version of a pop star did.
Yeah, just what he went away to do was fucking weird.
Yeah, what? Spoilers, joined a cult.
Whoa!
Oh my god.
Not really. I mean, that is the premise of the movie.
Yeah. What can I say about this film? I'm going to start with positives because I feel like what we're going to dive into is negatives. I like Ayo Edibiri and John Malkovich in this film. I think their performances are good. I mean, I don't think there's any bad performances in this film, just off the top of my head. I like John Malkovich quite a lot in this film because I think he does do a perfect balance of the character that he plays, the pop star. You know he's part of a cult, and inherently yourself. You know cults are bad and weird and dangerous, but he gives, like, a sort of eerie vibe, but, like, also kind of safe. In the way that he speaks to Ayo Edibiri's character and kind of reassures her. In the film, there's a point where I think you feel, like, semi-safe.
Yeah.
Just before things kind of kick off. I like the way this film was shot.
Sure.
And I like the music.
The music as in...
The music is in the music in the film. So the John Malkovich's music.
Yes.
I don't remember much of the score.
Yeah.
There was nothing that really, like, stood out to me.
So I mean, the premise of the movie, which isn't really covered in that line, in that description, is that all these journalists are invited to John Malkovich's, like, estate to listen to his, like, magnum opus, his, like, new album that's coming out, and he wants them to all write pieces about it. Well, so they think.
The journalists that go are generally have known John Malkovich, like, 30 years prior. They had some sort of, like, connection to him, aside from Ayo Edibiri's character.
Yeah.
She was chosen for other reasons that become apparent.
Well, then there's, like, an influencer and stuff as well. Like, it does just seem like he's trying to tap into an old market and a new market.
Yeah, he's
But you wouldn't think anything weird of it.
Not to start with.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess already you're like, this is a bit strange, where they're all, like, on the bus together and there's only a couple of them, and they're, like, getting driven out, and it's just like they go to this compound, and it's like a whole ass compound with, like, a bunch of people on it, and John Malkovich.
I mean, in a way, because you're watching a movie, you're like, oh, weird, and I feel like if you were living it, weird, but also you could be like, oh, eccentric, weird fucking celebrity, sure, this makes sense.
But I think even if it is, like, eccentric, weird celebrity, I'd still be like, this is weird.
Oh, no, totally, yeah.
Even if they were doing nothing wrong.
Yes.
I'd be like, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is really strange.
It's probably reality, though.
Yeah, I mean...
Taylor Swift probably has a compound. The Swifties do not come after me.
We've dunked on the Swifties, or Taylor Swift, a couple of times.
Have we? I've not.
I think I mentioned something, and you were like, oh, the Swifties are going to come for us.
Okay.
So...
This is a safe space for Swifties.
Is it?
Yes. But yeah, his music. So you do hear, like, songs throughout the movie. I don't think they ever get as good as the initial song that's played, which weirdly is not part of his magnum opus. They do this, like, flash or, like, news report piece, which is like, here's who he was, and they kind of show everybody loving it must be, like, his top hit. And it's, like, really fun. It's a really fun sequence.
Yeah, I think that sequence was... I think you were complaining about the pacing at some point in the film, and then presumably I'm assuming the editing as well. Or do you think the editing was fine?
Well, I didn't have any qualms with the editing, if I'm being honest.
I think that sequence was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of plot, I definitely, of the four of us, I enjoyed this film the most.
We saw it with two other people, just for context. There's not four people here.
Come on, guys. Yeah, the four of us I went to see, I definitely enjoyed it the most. I was actually trying to think of if, I mean, I don't think the messaging in this film is, or the point that's trying to get across is all that strong. I do wonder if it's because I don't think, seen a lot of like cult films. I mean, I guess I've seen like Midsummer. The one I thought of on the drive over here was the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody movie.
Jesus Christ, the one with the clones?
Yeah.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah. Talk about pulled.
Wow. Cinema.
I've only seen cinema.
Yeah.
That's a strong light. Back low now. Yeah. Yeah, this film tries to kind of show. I don't even know how to explain what this film's trying to say about cults and like trying to relate them with pop stars.
You know, I think that's a little bit of the problem. I didn't love this movie. I'm in a similar boat with like, I really enjoyed the performances. I don't think I was given that much, which is sad. Like, you walk away and you're like, who is her character? Like, I can't really tell you much about her. She's a struggling journalist that's struggling, and she really wants to not struggle and get heard. That's it. I mean, in a tight 90 movie, sure, maybe you didn't have enough time to explore in a lot of depth, but there's a lot of pockets where it's just like, and we're meandering, and it's like slowing right down, and you could have explored her more. And it's weird because her and John Malkovich are like the only people that are afforded any sort of depth. Like, the other journalists who are there are not, they're like caricatures for a little bit.
I mean, literally, I think they did that thing where they dress them all up and they're like different colors, and it's just like,
sure, yeah,
that's all they are. Like,
I love the costuming in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, John Malkovich is insanely weird, and his performance is really interesting. There's a sequence where they have to listen to one of his songs, and he's just like circling them, doing the most batshit crazy stuff. And it's one of those like, you never know what his next move is going to be.
Yeah.
It's super interesting to watch. But you're aware you're watching these kind of like eat the rich, culty, horror, comedy movies. You're aware that's happening from like the jump, like as soon as they arrive there. And you are kind of, it feels like they might do something else with the premise, because it's not necessarily just eat the rich or like, I have a cult. There's this whole idea of levels within it. So he's created like a religion in this cult, which is like, some people are just better than others, and there is a level to like people in society and their place and whatever. And you're like, okay, that could be interesting, and how it relates to celebrity and who we choose to like adore, and why their art is more special than other people's. And like, I think the movie's not saying any of this, but I thought it might, and it just never gets there. It's so empty.
Yeah, I don't know if it completely understands what the rules are to the levelist propaganda itself, because he speaks of people can become great, I think, as well, which just means that it is open to everyone.
They can jump levels.
Yeah.
But like, in my head, that was like, if you jump levels, somebody has to replace, like, only certain people can be on a certain level.
Like a pyramid.
Yeah, right. But like, none of that is explored.
I was hoping to see more rules from the handbook.
Yes.
Because the only one I can remember is teach them young.
Yeah, so when they're invited to this compound, they all get given like a hamper, and in it is like their Bible, I guess. Yeah. And none of the other journalists are reading it, except Ayo Edibiri, who's like, this is weird, and the only thing we see is that page. Bizarre.
Yep.
There's a sequence early on that I was like, ugh, I'm out. Where like, Ayo Edibiri, they're all invited to this dinner with the Levelists and John Malkovich, and there's only a certain amount of seats up at the top of the table with John Malkovich, and all the other journalists get those seats. Ayo Edibiri is also there with her boss, And she goes to sit, and the boss is like, "Oh, thanks for like pulling the seat out for him." And he sits there, and she doesn't have a seat. So then this kid comes up to her and is like, "Hey, come sit down at my end of the table." And then she goes right down to the bottom with like the other levelists. And they have this odd sequence where they're like, and the ceremony begins, and they get given this loaf of bread that everybody takes a bite out of, like this massive loaf of bread. So obviously if you sit at the top of the table, you get to eat into this fresh loaf of bread. But like there's 100 people in this hall. So the further down the table it goes, the bread's like got people's saliva on it.
And it's like soggy.
It's soggy bread. It's fucking disgusting. They do well like shooting that. But I was just like rolling my eyes. I'm like, oh, the metaphor of the bread. Like, it's just saying the same thing that other movies have done. And unfortunately, I can point to other movies for like better instances of every single thing that this movie copied, which kind of sucks. Like if you've seen, the closest I'd compare this to is The Menu,
which I haven't seen.
But The Menu is, I also don't love The Menu. I think it's a better movie than this, because it has something to say about like culinary arts and the way that like artistry is wasted on the wealthy, and it's not appreciated by like working class people, and like they're not given the opportunity for that. And there's a level of dialogue there that's like, oh, I'm interested in this. This movie never reaches that, in my opinion. I don't know if you'd agree. It never really reaches any sort of like conclusion or like some sort of like grand point it's trying to make. It just feels very empty.
No, it's just kind of step by step. Like, here's what the cult do, and hear how they spread their message. That's how the film literally just ends by going like,
yeah, not even a spoiler, but
this is how cults work.
Yeah. The ending as well, again, not spoiling it, but feels very like, aren't you silly for not figuring this out? Like, it was all part of the plan. But what is that trying to say?
Do you think it would be more interesting? Because I do like her sitting with the news reporter, and then like seeing the news reporter's like necklace.
Oh,
I do like that. It's a bit on the nose, but like, do you think that would have been better to just have that without the John Malkovich bit in between?
Yeah, I think there's something that happens at the end that makes it feel like everything had a purpose and it was all meticulously planned and like he was this grand mastermind.
It's also very exposition heavy.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get any of the... There's a bit I want to talk about, but it's kind of spoilery. There's a character that does something, and I guess you don't know their motivation.
Oh, sure.
And by the end of you have a like in my mind I was like questioning it.
Yes.
By the end of the film, you're just told what it is.
Yeah.
Which I found kind of annoying.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
It doesn't trust its audience to maybe walk away, because if that hadn't been answered, that was the first thing that I was going to be like, this doesn't add up. But then that provokes discussion on like, why would somebody do this? And yeah, very, very odd. I do think if you enjoy these types of movies, you might get, I don't think you'll get anything out of it. I just think you might have a fun time with it. As you were saying a little bit, the pacing, I enjoyed the first like 15 minutes, which is like this setup. Ayo's in New York. She feels like she's being like steamrolled in her job. She's very like astute and is like providing ideas to this company that's then just like taking them, from her. And there's this scene with, I think maybe her boyfriend, that was like, oh, we're settling into this like really nice vibe. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. And then we get to the cultist place and there's just this prolonged second act where nothing really happens or stuff is implied to happen. That's meant to be like, scary stuff is going on. And you're like, oh, okay. But there's no other substance to like keep it chugging along. and then you arrive at the third act, and shocker, like, take a wild guess what that third act turns into, if you've seen any of these sorts of movies. And it's very quick and rushed, and there's not that much of interest, in my opinion, in there.
No. It's quite fast-paced towards the end, with not a lot to say. There's one thing that it does kind of make the point of, which is before you even get to the kind of cults. I mean, I guess the film was trying to say that, like, the fan bases are kind of like cults.
Oh, yes.
And you get that very quickly, because at the very first dinner that you were talking about, John Malkovich gets up on stage and tells this story that, like, if you're not just head over heels for this person, like, in world, you're not, like, fooled by what he's talking about, which is, like, what Ayo Edibiri's character was going through. Like, this long story, everyone else in the room is, like, eating it up, and she's like, what is this guy talking about? It's absolute bullshit. And I do think, given what happens with that character, like John Malkovich's character later on in the film, I do think it does say something about just believing in, like, because someone does something that you enjoy, then just, like, putting that person on a pedestal, because that does happen with, like, a lot of bad people that are in, like, good places. So, like, Elon Musk, for example, has had a lot of companies that have done a lot of stuff that people are like, oh, that's very cool. So they just think this person's, like, an interesting and good person, and then, like, has ended up doing very, very bad things and saying very, very bad things. So
do more with that, though. I completely agree with you. There's surface level commentary about that that I don't think. I think the premise of the film itself just lends itself to that commentary, but, like, dig into that. Kind of a little bit with what you were saying about Ayo Edibiri, like, not being fooled by that stuff. I think something that's really good in this movie is that she is not, I was going to say, she's not like other girls. She's
still different.
Truly. She immediately, people start to go missing or whatever, and there's, like, little creepy things going on, and she's like, I'm out of here. Like, this is fucking weird. And the fact that you're not all questioning it, weird. Kind of alluding to what you're saying about this, blinded by the celebrity and the person that they enjoy. She's not. I thought that was really interesting, because some issues I have with other movies in this genre are the fact that the main protagonist just, like, chugs along with being in a weird cult, because why? I don't know. And I'm glad that she was like, nah, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, she questions it the whole time.
And there's this great scene where I think it's, like, a second dinner that they go to, where, like, John Malkovich is, like, preparing, and, like, they're all, like, hustling and bustling. And there's this cut to Ayo, and her face is like, I'm fucking over this. It is, like, the best scowl that she's giving John Malkovich. Nice. It's so good.
Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job of being like, this is how they can't get help, because they just make it so that other technology gets taken off of them. It's funny that, like, films have to do that now, because it's not like when you had stuff in the 80s, and it's like, we can't get, the phone line's been cut, like, that doesn't happen anymore. Did you notice there's a scene in the film where they're all getting watched on security cameras, and it's moving between them all? Did you notice the one of the screens had, like, someone with all their phones?
Oh, yeah, painting them.
Yeah. I thought they were getting painted. I think they were brushing them, maybe to get, like, fingerprints off of them or something.
No, they get painted.
Why did their phones get painted?
Because Ayo then finds the phones. Do you remember?
I do not remember her finding the phones.
Okay, that's really funny.
Yeah.
She finds them because she tries to make a call, and they've been painted over.
Did I just fucking blip out at that point in the film?
It's weirdly shot, that scene, so I wouldn't dismiss you
for, like, not remembering that.
Yeah. She finds the phones, finds out they're painted, and then proceeds to, like, go through each phone, like, tries to scratch the paint off, and as it's doing that, the camera just pans and keeps panning and pans to something.
Something.
Yeah. You have no recollection of that.
No recollection of this.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Would you recommend this film?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, I actually would.
Interesting.
I mean, for me, this is, like, a 3-star film.
Okay.
So, like, I still think it's fine. I'd recommend seeing it, but not going to see it in cinema.
Cool.
Yeah.
A streaming movie.
Yeah.
Fair. I wouldn't recommend this. I think it's been done better. And that's saying something because I don't particularly enjoy the other ones I've seen.
Yeah.
But I'd recommend The Menu over this, and I'd recommend Midsommar over this. Both of which I don't particularly love. Oddly, like there are so many though. Like the best version of this is Get Out.
Yeah.
And everything has been trying to like reach the heights of Get Out since that came out.
No one's beaten Jordan Peele.
No, sorry. Jordan Peele.
He's the GOAT.
Truly. Shall we move on?
I suppose.
I should do my I'll do my best British accent for this review.
Is this film all British?
Welcome to Black Bag. It is. It's so British. I love a good British movie. I don't know if Steven Soderberg is British actually.
Is he not American?
I imagine he's American. I mean, he made the Ocean's movies. They feel American. Also, like Magic Mike, yeah, like surely his movie, yeah, he's American.
He's an American film director.
Yeah. Well, Black Bag is directed by Steven Soderberg. It's his latest movie. It is his second movie to premiere in cinemas this year, which is wild. He came out with a movie called Presence in January. Neither of us saw it.
Yeah.
It didn't get the best reviews. It's like a ghost story where like you're the ghost, like the camera is the ghost.
Okay.
Not a horror. People just said it's really weird and experimental.
I did hear about this.
Yeah. I honestly would be interested to see it, but I don't know. I can drag myself to the cinema for like 80 minutes of.
2 films back to back, huh?
Truly though, he's doing a Luca Guadagnino.
Mm.
Black Bag tells the story of Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, who are a married couple of spies. Both of them are spies.
It's just Spy Kids.
It's Spy Kids for adults. I think it must be like MI5, MI6, something. I don't know if it's ever addressed, but they work for like British intelligence. And we learn very early on in the movie, Michael Fassbender gets told that there has been, like somebody's been compromised. They've let this MacGuffin get stolen and it's going to cause like irreparable damage. If it gets out, it's going to kill like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And there's this list of people who it could be, and he has to go and find out who it is. And one of the people on that list is his wife. And he gets told, like, if it is your wife, can you do this? Can you kill her? And he's like, of course I can. So that sets the sort of plot in motion, is that Mike Fassbender has to figure out who stole this thing to stop the world ending or whatever. That is the A plot, technically. But it is just a way to facilitate a story underneath, and the story underneath is so interesting. It's about how do like spies love? Like, could you love someone if they were never able to tell you the truth, or you were never able to know if they were lying? And also, could they love you if they couldn't trust a word that came out your mouth? So it is really interesting that the movie starts with like this dinner scene where all these people are invited, and you learn that all the people on the list are actually like 3 couples. So you have Mike Fassbender and Cate Blanchett playing one couple. You have, oh god, I actually don't know some of the actors' names. Bear with.
Naomi Harris.
So Naomi Harris and Renée Jean Page play a kind of couple. She's a therapist for the MI5, MI6, whatever, and he was like one of her patients, but they kind of had this on again, off again thing. And then you have Marissa Abella and Tom Burke, who are this couple. Marissa Abella is younger, she may be in her 20s, and then Tom Burke is like a lot older. And there's this great scene in the movie where like it kind of epitomizes what this like undercurrent is, where Michael Fassbender's like, why are you dating this person? And she's like, well, if I don't date someone within the agency, they will never be able to trust me. Like, and they go into, I'm not going to spoil because I find that stuff like really interesting to like chew on and mull over. But the name of the movie, Black Bag, they get this because if a spy is not allowed to say something because of their job, they go black bag. So
does one ask a question, the response could just be
black bag. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that like you see Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett talk about work, and she's leaving for work one day. She's like, he's like, do you want to go see a movie on Thursday? She's like, Thursday would be great. I can't on Friday. And he's like, oh, why can you not on Friday? And she's like, oh, black bag. And it's just this like little hint of like, oh, so like it's the perfect excuse. Because if you were having an affair or something, you don't have to say that you're having an affair. You could just say black bag because it's hidden under the veil of work. And it's this like really interesting way to like lie. Anyway, that is what I find more interesting about the movie. The plot is a spy plot. If you like spy movies, I think you'll enjoy this. It does get a little bit convoluted towards the end, but I'm a sucker for a spy movie. So I really enjoyed that. But I think this has such interesting things to say about just like profession and how easy lying comes to some people and how that can damage a relationship or strengthen it in weird ways because I mean you don't know that they're lying. Very interesting stuff. It is beyond sexy. Like if I was to epitomize this movie in one word, it's just sexy. Like they have this way of talking. It's very stylized dialogue. It's very like slick and like salacious. But it still feels real, but it definitely has style to it. Their costumes are all like very prim and proper and like precise and
is it giving James Bond?
It's because you have like the Mission Impossibles and the James Bonds
as like very different in my mind.
But as like the same sort of camp of spy?
Nah.
No? Granted, I've only seen 2 Bond movies. So
I've seen 4.
Okay. It probably is more Bond leaning than Mission Impossible for sure, but it's not action heavy at all. It really is dialogue heavy, and I'm trying to think of like a movie that it feels like, and I can't really pin one down, which is a cool thing, I guess.
Yeah.
You kind of the pacing of the movie is really interesting because you have this plot beat going along about the thing that's stolen, and those are like little scenes that are like sprinkled in and it's moving along the story, and then you end up on these what I would call set pieces for this kind of movie, but they're just like 10-minute 15-minute dialogue, like sprawling dialogue scenes between either 2 people, between a group of people, that are just like interesting, like people are saying things but meaning something else, or like there's double meanings to some things people are saying. Like you just sit there like a fly on the wall and like absorbing these characters in. It's so much fun to watch, and it's 90 minutes. It is a tight movie.
I love a good 90-minute film.
Tight 90, tighty 90.
No, tight 90.
Yeah, we'll just.
We're not going to tighty 90.
Tighty 90. Which is odd. It's odd to have these like prolonged scenes in a movie that short, but they just work. It's paced really well. That when you end up in these scenes, you're like, oh, give me more. Like there's the dinner scene early on in the start, and then you come back and you get another dinner scene later on. You're like, yes, yes, another. If you've seen the trailer for this movie, we had qualms about it because it looked bad, like the lighting. Yeah. It works. I will say it worked for me. I don't know if that's going to be like a consensus, but the lighting, any sort of point light in the movie is very diffused. So the film ends up being, I don't know if is diffuse a word? Like very not blown out. I guess the lights are blown out. No, like, it just, lights were like kind of all encompassing on the screen. So like if you had a light on, it wasn't taking up like a little tiny point. It was diffusing it out into the screen. I really enjoyed it because I think it works tonally with this like sexiness, this like spy, like mystery element. Like it works. It doesn't necessarily have like plot reasons or anything to look the way it does. It just fits in really well with the style of the movie. Which is odd because I think if you just look at images from this movie, you might be like, this doesn't necessarily look all that great, but it works. There's not a single big light turned on in that fucking house. All the lamps that they can turn on.
I wasn't expecting any big lights.
No, and we stand Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender for that. I just really enjoyed it. It's just a tight, fun thriller. Do you know what? It also isn't scared to be funny. Like, I think sometimes when people go into genre movies, they mitigate the fact that it is, or they mitigate the fact that, you know, it still takes place in the real world. In sadness, there's joy. In like seriousness, there is still laughter. Like,
is this like Christopher Nolan comedy though? Just like serious moments, then there's like a quip.
Yeah, that's not a bad pull, as it's Christopher Nolan-y. There is Marissa Abella, who I love. I'm watching Industry at the moment, and she's phenomenal in that. She's great in this, but she is horny as fuck, and that's like, it's just her character. Like, they play it for laughs. Like, she's in these serious scenes. She's getting a like lie detector, and she is so like turned on by the fact she's getting a lie detector by Michael Fassbender. Like, she's read a book about how to like they're called sonographs, aren't they?
I think so. You mean the actual lie detector?
Yeah.
Something like that.
She's like read books on how to get around sonographs and stuff, and
they're all bullshit anyway.
Yeah, but when you're watching a spy movie though, it's like, well, it's real.
I would take me out of it, I think.
No, in all fairness though, it isn't just like put the things on the chest. He has like cameras on all their faces, stuff on their hands, stuff like he's measuring all of them. And it's funny, at one point he's like, is your middle name blah, whatever? She was like, no. And then it cuts over to like her report, and you can clearly see her middle name is that. He's like, Michael Fassbender, who is uptight in this movie, is like, your middle name is this? And she goes, no. And he starts getting actively annoyed. And like fourth time he asks, she's like, yeah. And he just panics because he's like, oh fuck, she's really good at bypassing this. Yeah, if you're a fan of spy movies, it's just if you're a fan of movies and you're like an adult, this just feels like a good adult time at the movies. Like, you don't get a lot of movies like this that are just like unabashedly like sexy and just fun to watch, but aimed at adults. I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, good and fun. A little bit convoluted in how it wraps up.
Okay.
But
suddenly becomes Austin Powers by the end of the film.
Not quite Austin Powers. Groovy baby. He just walks in. And if you do watch it, just think about the final scene a little bit more. Because in my head, I was like, oh, fun. And the person I was with mentioned something, and I was like, oh. And then I had a kind of different read on how the film wrapped up. So that'd be my recommendation. Just maybe give it a little bit more thought.
Did it have a kick-ass spy score, or?
The score? I didn't particularly notice the score.
Forgettable then.
Not forgettable. Just not. Maybe did it have a score? Surely it did. I just remember those dialogue scenes just being like dialogue, and that being like enough to carry it. Such good actors as well. My God.
I mean, remember when we were watching the X-Men films and we were like, getting to the bad ones, we were like, oh, Michael Fassbender's still giving a performance.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
he's
his
so
scenes
good.
would be like, thank fuck, we're here with an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Kate Blanchett, like, leading this movie, you're like, oh, you disappear into roles, like, so good. Oh, I love spy movies. I love it so much when you're, like, sitting there like, what is going on? Why is this happening? Have to mention, one of the funniest things to happen, though, we were howling. Don't know why the rest of the cinema wasn't, but they have this moment where Marissa Abela, she has to like use a satellite to find an image of somebody for Michael Fassbender, and she's hacking away. She gets the image up, and Michael Fassbender's like, oh, can we hear it? And she's like, I don't have audio, but, and then she swivels on her chair to this other bit, takes this little chip, comes back and goes, I do have this lip reading AI, and like pops the chip in. Yeah. We were howling. It's a spy movie. You get shit like that, but it's so funny to watch.
Nice.
Highly recommend. And I recommend go to the cinema and see this. Support original ideas like this. It was good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Black bag. I'm gonna start saying that to people when people like annoy me with questions that I don't want to answer.
Where were you yesterday? Oh, black bag. It's good, isn't it? It's quite fun.
Time for a question, I think.
Whoa.
Okay. Are you ready?
No.
Oh, wait. This is an interesting one. This question is from someone who clearly knows us.
Okay.
As computer scientists...
Oh, what?
How do you feel about the way it is presented in media?
Oh, that's so funny. I've been talking about that.
For example, the cliche hacking scenes of just wildly typing random shit on a screen with green text. What are the best and worst pieces of media to have portrayed CompSci?
Oof.
Was talking about the film Hackers the other day.
Okay.
Which is like really funny because they like when they're hacking, they're in like a hacker space.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just like this virtual world with like columns and shit, and they're like flying, soaring through it and stuff.
Jesus.
It's ridiculous.
Oh. So best portrayal then.
The best portrayal. Yeah. I think the best portrayal is Mr. Robot.
Oh, undoubtedly, yeah.
It's just real.
Yeah. From the first scene of that show.
Yep.
It's, yeah. I'm not going to think of anything better than that.
Yeah, I don't think there is
the best depiction.
Better. When I was watching that show, I was in third year and we were learning about networking and routing. And I remember him like yapping about a bunch of stuff. And I was like,
the lecturer or
the Elliot and Mr. Robot,
Yeah.
Random Alex character. And he's just like, in that first scene where he's sitting at the desk, like, catching that guy out,
Yes.
or sitting at a table in the restaurant. And, like, a bunch of the stuff he was saying, I was learning.
Oh, that's wild.
And I was like, this is weird. But it was just nice to see them, like, actually talking about
care,
stuff.
yeah.
And not being like, I have this lip reading.
Look, time and place, because that also brings me so much joy.
Well, we've also talked about we hate The Last Mission Impossible, and part of that is the weird AI shit. It's ridiculous.
Yes. AI is weird and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I recently watched Her, like literally this week.
Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant depiction of AI, and actually, if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it now. Like, drop what you're doing, drop this podcast, and go watch Her.
Bye.
It feels like we're on the precipice of that being reality, and that's really interesting and really scary. And I think that when it came out over a decade ago, it still probably felt like sci-fi, and now it really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you talk about like accurate depictions of AI, I think that's fully maybe it gets more philosophical towards the end, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, I guess.
In terms of AI, you also got 2001: Space Odyssey.
Oh, sure.
Which is like, I don't know if I'd call it like accurate depictions, because it is just a box with like
Red.
has a red light that's just like, I'm going to kill you now. But like, just interesting that was even like in conversation in a sci-fi film in 1968. Like, very long time ago. And not like over the top.
Sure.
It is a machine that is capable of understanding humans, responding to them, and controlling things on the spaceship. It's not the Mission Impossible one, where it's capable of all this random crazy shit. And it can probably, I don't remember the film very well, but it can probably like predict people's patterns and things. It's probably one of those ones.
And also, he has a club. You're standing in it right now.
Yeah.
Oh. AI is weird though, because then you start getting into like robots and stuff, and I think, who knows if that depiction is accurate. CompSci specifically, and like coding, I don't know, my brain goes to a few different things. One of them, War Games.
Not seen it.
The Matthew Broderick movie. I got shown that in my computer science class in school, like high school, because like my teacher enjoyed it so much. I don't know if that's because he thought it was accurate, and also at the time I was just like, this is fun. I can't tell you if that was
I watched half
accurate.
of computer science and stuff.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so probably not then, if we're
We
going
should
off
have
of a
been
pattern. The Scottish education system, baby. Great movie though. Shall we play a game?
Wait, that's Saw.
What?
That's where that line's from.
Yes, it is. No. What's the line that Black Widow says when they go to the Barrett Zemo, when they find Zemo as a computer?
Right. It's in Winter Soldier when they go to the bunker. I don't know.
Is it not Shall We Play a Game? Is that not from War Games?
So does Saw take it from War Games?
Let's find out.
I saw TikTok.
It is.
I saw TikTok that said that friend-zoned as a term only exists since Friends, the show, came out.
You are kidding. Like that term is because of Ross and Rachel.
I mean, I'd assume it would be from them, wouldn't it?
Wow, you got friend zoned.
Our entire lives, that term has existed.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that, because I didn't double check.
Well, it's fact now. It's now existing in perpetuity. So.
But I just thought that was crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm trying to think of other depictions that like.
Oh, excellent depictions. The Electric State, obviously.
Spoilers for next week's episode. Coding. There isn't you're not gonna get a movie about I'm sitting for 8 hours a day coding infrastructure.
It's boring to look over someone's shoulder going like this.
Yeah. And I quite like the depiction of, give me 2 seconds to hack into the mainframe. I think that's fun. Even though it's not particularly accurate.
I fucking hate it now.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Because you are I spent hours a day doing this.
No, it's just cliched. It's not interesting.
Sure.
It's just very cheesy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that automatically makes a film like a popcorn movie.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any indie A24 neon movie about coding?
Not yet. That could be us.
Call us up.
Yeah.
Good God. The API calls aren't working.
The film just called API.
Ooh, good. Yeah. A programming in
a programming
indie.
And then it relates to Severance.
Severance is the best depiction of monotonous coding work.
You just look for the scary
Just
numbers.
do what you feel. Is this library speaking to you? Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. You've hit the nail on the head with Mr. Robot being the most accurate, because there actually is not. That is fully like a show about computer science and other things.
Yeah, it's a show about someone losing their mind that has computer science in it.
I've never seen it, but I have been recommended by people Halt and Catch Fire, which
what?
Halt and Catch Fire. I think it's based on a book.
Right.
It's a show that I'm pretty sure is to do with coding. I don't think that's particularly accurate though. And then as we've kind of spoke about it, I feel like there's a plethora of bad instances.
Oh, there definitely will be.
I just find that hilarious that that's the question after we were howling in the cinema. This lip reading AI.
I'm trying to think. I think I do think in 2001: A Space Odyssey the AI does lip read.
Oh, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility for AI to be able to lip read. It's more the fact that she was like,
"No, it's
I need to insert a chip."
Yeah. Is it literally a USB?
It's basically. Yeah. It's like a little block, and she's like swiveling in her chair to like get it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It's great. The MCU has a lot of like, don't know why I hit a note.
That's from my brain when you were like, I'm hacking into the mainframe.
Yeah.
They do a good job of like not saying those words, but doing the cheesy stuff. So like Iron Man can kind of just do like whatever he wants, but because it's Robert Downey Jr., it's fine. Like it's played off really well.
They've built up worlds around the characters that can do that as well. So like Shuri, there is the whole Wakandan aspect. Tony has like his playpen of stuff. Like
it's always the funniest thing that Tony Stark inverts the Mobius strip, and then suddenly he's invented time travel.
Time travel, yeah.
Some guy.
Yeah. Is there not like science of like why that works though? I feel like I watched a video ages ago.
I think I sent you a TikTok of some guys showing it, and it's that if you have like a normal strip and you cut through the middle, there are two circles, so you've created two timelines. But when you have the Mobius strip and you cut through the middle of it, they come apart into like one bigger circle.
The sacred timeline.
It's kind of crazy how smart that actually is.
It actually is. It's like, oh, you put a level of effort into this. It's not just like, yeah, computers.
We love computers. We're sitting with computers in our laps.
With
computers recording us.
And we're about to talk about computers next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Plot to Go. Next week we will be talking about the electric state. We've seen it. Currently we have seen it while sitting here and... oh boy. So join us for that. And we will be talking about Novocaine.
But you will.
I will. Because I saw Novocaine and touching on some news. Doing a little news roundup. God, sorry. In saying that, just brought back a memory of News Round, that was a show.
Yeah, when you said that, my brain went to News Round.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually just talking about it the other day because...
News Round?
Yeah, when the last Narnia came out, CBBC like News Round had like behind the scenes of Narnia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like on the ship for Voyage of the Dawn Treader with like the prosthetics and stuff, and yeah, it was
crazy. Follow us on stuff, Spotify and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and like and all that stuff that I should say. Yeah.
And actually watch the thing. You do that every time. Everyone's at the end of the episode.
Please don't. And people listen to like an episode for the first time, be like, "Oh, there's a review for Black Bag. Oh, there's a listen. Please actually watch." Hilarious.
That's why we're dropping viewers.
Because
I'm just too antagonistic.
The boy on the left side, really angry at the end.
Oh no.
Anyway. Bye.